Hello, my name's Clare Williams and I'm an instructor with Chesvale Dog Training Club. I've been an instructor there for over 10 years and have been training my dogs for about 15 years. I also compete in obedience, which I've been doing for probably about 10 years. Today we're going to talk about heel work and just the very basic heel work in obedience competition. Watching good heel work should be like watching Torvill and Dean or a fantastic ballroom dancing partnership. Each of the partners should know their job really well and they should work together seamlessly, each one showing the other off to the best that they can. Heel work should be a combination of style, attention, motivation and attitude, position, contact and understanding. Now, the really top dogs will show that week in, week out, but for most people that's what we're striving to achieve rather than what we will have when we start out. It's important to remember that sometimes you may have one or two of those qualities, not all of them. For instance, you may have a dog that works with really good attitude and motivation, but because they're so excited, they're perhaps working forwards and losing position, or their bottom is turning out and they're actually crabbing and losing position as well. So sometimes it may be better to look with your dog, if you haven't got all those elements, to work with what you've got and work on accuracy and precision and position rather than possibly overdoing it on the style front. It really depends a bit on your dog and what your dog is able to do and the level of training that your dog has experienced. Now, heel work's not just about the dog. You have to remember that heel work is also about the handler as well. It's always important to work on yourself to make sure that you're walking at the right pace for the dog, that you have your hand in the right position for the dog to be able to work, that you're moving within your turns in a way that the dog can either keep up with, or if you're not, then you adjust your pace through the turn so your dog can maintain its position on the leg. The heel work exercise can vary depending on the class that's being worked. In the introductory class there is just one round of heel work and that is done on lead. In the classes pre-beginner to novice there are two sets of heel work. One is done on lead and another is done off lead. And then between classes A and C there's usually one round of heel work. It's a longer round and it's always done off lead. It also varies the level of commands you can give your dog during heel work, depending on the class you're working in. Any class up to novice, you can give your dog as many commands as you like, and that's both verbal commands and body signals. But then from test A onwards, you are restricted in that you cannot actually give your dog any verbal commands once you've started the heel work round, and you cannot give your dog any body signals either. So that then becomes a responsibility on the handler to not lose marks by giving commands that they're not permitted to give. In the higher classes there are a few exceptions to this. For instance, when you've halted you are allowed to recommand your dog as you set off again. And also in class C, if you are doing any what's called positions on the move, then you are obviously able to command your dog verbally or with a signal. But in general, in those classes, you lose the commands and you're not allowed to use them at all. In terms of the exercise itself, the heel work always starts with the dog sitting at the handler's left-hand side. The dog should be sitting straight at the left-hand side, and then on the steward's command, the dog and handler move forward together. In the heel work up to novice, you will be commanded to do a selection of turns, which could be an about turn, a right turn or a left turn, or in novice some turns on the diagonal, and all of those are done on the steward's command. Obviously it's helpful to watch the round before you go in to compete, because then you get a rough idea of where the turns are coming, but that can lead to anticipating the turn, so do be careful on that one. In the higher classes there are a number of different exercises as well, which we'll cover in a different video. The exercise ends with a halt, with the dog sitting by the handler's side, and again that is on the steward's command. If the round of heel work is on the lead, it's important that the lead is slack at all times because points are deducted for having a tight lead. Within the rules for heel work, the dog should work in a happy and natural manner in a position where the dog's shoulder is reasonably close to and level with the handler's leg at all times. Any deviation from that position will be marked. When the handler is stewarded to turn, the handler should turn reasonably smartly, and the dog should turn with the handler and is expected to maintain the position with its shoulder level to the handler's leg at all times. When the handler does an about turn, the dog will follow the handler round on the outside and maintain its position. If it's the right turn, then the dog will turn to the right with the handler. Obviously, any turn that's to the right, the dog will need to speed up just a little bit to be able to maintain position. If it's a left turn, the dog needs to slow down and collect itself so it's still able to maintain the position as the handler turns. And the left turn is probably the one that most novice handlers find the most difficult to execute. In classes B and C, the dog is expected not only to be able to work at normal pace, but also at slow pace and at fast pace. And the judge will be looking for a very marked difference between the paces to show that the dog is able to maintain its position across all three speeds of the handler. In terms of what the judge is looking for in the heel work exercise, the judge will be looking for a straight sit at the start of the exercise. They'll be looking for the dog and handler to move off together with no lagging on the dog's part or no surging forward or jumping. Throughout the heel work, they will be looking for the position to be constant, and common errors can be that the dog is working forwards of the leg, the dog can be lagging or working backwards, it can be changing its position as the round carries on. The dog may be working wide of the leg and maybe then coming back in again, so there can be quite a variation of position which the judge will mark. And also sometimes you find dogs that are leaning a lot on the leg itself, so actually it's impeding the handler's ability to walk. All of those the judge will be looking out for and will be marking accordingly. Again, all the marks are graded in the various exercises. On the turns, the judge is looking for the dog to be not anticipating the turn. Sometimes you find dogs are turning on the steward's command rather than the handler's command. And also for the dog maintaining the position through the turn and also out of the turn as well. At the end of the exercise, in the halt itself, again the judge is looking for a prompt sit and a straight sit, not backwards, not forwards and not wide. The judge will also be ensuring the handler's doing their thing as well. So the handler is expected to turn when they're instructed. They may be able to take 1 or 2 paces, but not to take 4 or 5 paces before they turn. And obviously the handler needs to obey the steward's instruction and not go the wrong way. If the heel work is on lead, the handler must make sure the lead is kept slack at all times. Quite a common fault is the moving right hand. That means that the lead ends up tight and will be marked. The handler is not allowed to touch the dog at all during the exercise, and equally the dog is not allowed to touch the handler, so if the dog was pushing on the hand or something, that would be marked. In the higher classes, the handler are not permitted to give extra commands. One of the other problems that you can possibly have with position that the judge will mark for is that sometimes the dog's shoulder can be in the right position, but its bottom can either be sticking out, which is known as crabbing, or it can be hiding behind the handler, which is known as inverting. Both of those will be marked as well. The judge is looking for a dog that is working with a completely straight body position alongside the handler's leg and maintaining that position.